Welcome to DLA Hour, a platform for meaningful conversations where leadership ideas connect with the people. It's a space where representatives of the Democratic Leadership Alliance speak directly with the citizens, explain their policies, address national issues, and share their plans for a better future. On DLA Hour, the conversation goes beyond politics. We focus on vision, accountability, and practical steps towards responsible governance and national progress. My name is Omotola Adeleke. And of course, don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe to DLA Nigeria on all social media platforms. I'll be doing this with Esther Undoma. Esther Undoma, as usual. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I have right here with me, of course, the national chairman of the Democratic Leadership Alliance, DLA. You know him very well in the person of Barrister Samuel Memeh. Barrister Samuel Memeh, you're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers. Good afternoon, members of the great party, DLA.
Right across the country, many Nigerians are feeling the pressure. Rising prices, business struggles, and even growing concerns about jobs and opportunities. The big question now is, what must actually be done to revive Nigeria's economy? Is it about stronger policies, better leadership support for small businesses, or a complete shift in how we manage our resources? Barrister Samuel Memeh, Mr. Chairman, you are aware, you're a Nigerian and you know what's happening in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, on paper, you know, it's written there that our GDP is growing. As of last year, December 2025, we heard the GDP rose to about 3.98%. And it's been projected to grow up until like 4.3% in terms of GDP. But despite that, prices of food keeps increasing exponentially. Fuel prices have been increasing as well. Hardship, sufferings, and cries from the people are loud. So at this point, I don't think we should even start talking about steps, but immediate steps. No, so as a DLA national chairman, as someone who is strong in the political space and of course governance, what do you think can be done? What immediate steps and policies can be put on ground to, make sure we revive the Nigerian economy?
Well, this has to do with policy direction. It has to do with the ability to lead. What you see is a simple question that requires some form of tactical approach from a visionary leadership of a country. And you make reference about the GDP figures and the rest of them, but you find out that more Nigerians are living in abject poverty. How they come about, reading out figures, and because you have a system of governance, particularly at the level of the federal government, and you have a president with a team of people, in the federal and executive cabinets, and sometimes you begin to imagine what are the policy direction of these people. Where are they leading this country, into? And what is the result, the consequences of their actions and consequences of their inactions, decisions, and inability to make decisions on the life of the people. So when you look at it, you see that in practical terms. Even as a Nigerian, you know where you used to be 4 years ago. You know how life was 4 years ago. You now see how much difficulty it is for Nigerians. So it's not really about the GDP. People can, right now the president is in the UK, and is being celebrated by the evacuated colonial masters. He has gone there again to bow, before them, and to pledge allegiance that, look, I will continue to, pay homage to you people, irrespective of.
Is that what you think the president is there to do? How would you have known that?
Look, we are witness to everything that is being done in this country. Because otherwise, you have people being killed in Maiduguri, you have people being killed in Sokoto, you have people being killed in different parts of this country, you have people being kidnapped without resistance. there are many parts of this country that there are no security presence in Nigeria. And in Sokoto, for instance, in Zamfara, and many parts of the northern part of this country, even in the southern part of this country, the rules are not drivable anymore. Things keep going down under this administration. And you have a system that keep reading out figures that you can't even be able to, put in between the lines about what really the figures is all about. So Nigerians should begin to interrogate this system to say, look, now they are sharing rice across the country. The fund they ought to use to implement policies that can direct the life of the people to the right direction. Take, for instance, we keep saying these things because I was on a call with someone from Zamfara, and he told me about certain incident that happened recently about cattle wrestlers and the rest of them just yesterday here. So a lot of things are going around this country that you can't even imagine that these things keep going on without any reasonable plan on the part of the government to say, look, we want to address this issue. We understand the plight of Nigerians. We understand there are issues of insecurity. What practical steps is this our president, doing? So the figures does not, match to reality in terms of what is expected for a country such as Nigeria. So it's quite unfortunate that we find ourselves here. But of course, what can we do? We must begin to interrogate the system. Like I said, we must begin to form alliances that Nigerians must begin to participate, no matter what it costs you to associate towards a progressive direction that can possibly ensure that everybody participates. Let us try the voting revolution. I think that is better than...
When you say voting revolution, what do you mean?
No, voting revolution simply means that we still have little time, all right? So very soon there will be announcement of a continuous voters registration. Okay. I think right now they did the first part. I think it's still ongoing right now. So Nigerians should begin to ask themselves, do I really have voters card? And if you know that you are going to be in an environment where it will be difficult for you to move from your house to your polling unit, then there is an opportunity for you to change your polling unit closer to where you would be during the election. And that is the only way we can, chase away this set of people who are bent at, bringing this country to the barest minimum that to be difficult for animals to survive.
All right, as a political party that is hell-bent on putting the incumbent government accountable, you want them to be accountable for their actions and their kind of governance, of course. I still want to ask, what do you think are those immediate steps that can be taken? What do you think are those policies? As a political party, can you profile some solutions to help revive Nigeria's economy?
No, it's a matter of channeling the resources of the country to the right direction.
Okay.
All over the world, countries are known for certain products, for the goods and services that such a country manufacture or produce. And you find government identifying with these industries, basically directing the policies, not the policies that you bring in and you now use so many bottlenecks, bureaucracy to prevent people from having access to such policies that may probably be announced in the television and in the newspaper. A policy that can help to promote certain sector of the economy. Let's say you want to improve on automobile sector in this country. There are quite a number of Nigerians who are into these sectors and they are doing well to some extent. The government can boost these industries and boost these particular companies and go into some kind of arrangement that can provide more enabling environment. Then we must reduce corruption in this country to a barest minimum. Now this automatically means that money that was meant for the purpose of implementing certain projects should be channeled for the purpose which such a project was commissioned to do. So when we begin to have a mindset of leadership that can be ensure that such integrity is upheld at the level of governance, then that automatically will bring in some direction that we can all say and feel that the country is moving towards the right direction. Then, secondly, there must be a deliberate effort to protect the lives of the local community, in the sense that the villages, the people, the vulnerable villages in this country, in most cases, they do not have the presence of the security, and there are complaints, there are evidence, and there are plethora of attacks on these innocent villagers by the nomadic cattle rearers. And one thing that the party must do, and even now, even when we are not in government, is to ensure that there is restriction of movement of cattle in Nigeria on the foot. So it is when you're able to implement that policy, from that moment, I can tell you, and not just on that moment, like I keep saying, there must also be some level of implementation mechanism in place to ensure full implementation of this policy. And this policy must come, through the federal government. So it's a policy that will protect the lives of the people. It's a policy that will encourage agricultural investment in our country, and that automatically will boost the economy of this country through that direction.
All right.
So these are some of the things that require immediate direction that can, uplift the life of this country.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, still on the issue of policy preferring solution, we can see the issue of price volatility in the country. If you more like personal and private business owners have the limitations, they don't have limitations to their prices. Would you rather support the government enforce proper price regulation, or total market volatility should just keep going on?
Yeah, I think in every society, there is a need to fix profit margin. I would rather prefer it to be a profit margin, and it should come even in the realm of criminal law. And I would personally advocate for a law that would fix certain percentage as a profit for any goods in the category
price
of
cap.
Yes, there should be a percentage that, let's say for instance now, and you get this microphone, you are a sales representative, or you are into the business of buying and reselling. You are not the manufacturer of this microphone. And so if this microphone costs 10,000 naira, for instance, it should be that the seller of goods, should not have the power to fix profit margin on a certain good beyond certain percentage. So when you do that, it will be easy for the people to checkmate what others are doing, because if they know that you bought this vehicle for 3 million and you are expected to for a percentage of 10%, because since you are not the manufacturer, you are not the one that brought in the science and technology behind the manufacturing of such a vehicle. So you now find out that for someone who is buying a vehicle for 3 million naira, he cannot sell for more than 3.3 million naira. So the government will be able to regulate, and there should be also implementation, processes in such a law that should incriminate, the action of the violators, and so that to serve as a deterrent. So by so doing, then there should also be percentage for the manufacturers of this product. So in such that to regulate the manufacturers or the producers, that could be a little bit higher than the one who is buying, or the retailer who is buying to resell. I believe, in my opinion, that strongly this policy and this law, particular law for the purpose of price regulation that has to do with fixing of a price based on the percentage of the particular goods and services, that can regulate the over anxiety and anxiousness of on the part of business men and women out there.
Okay. Another issue of major concern is the over-reliance on oil in Nigeria. We've been relying too much. We've been dependent on crude oil in Nigeria for a very long time, and yet we don't see the kind of change we expect, despite the fact that Nigeria is one of the largest producers, of crude oil. So how can we have a paradigm shift, especially to help in other aspects of the economy?
Many times we have our representatives in governance who are very lazy, both in their thought and in their actions. Clearly states, because I rightly made a suggestion about the protection of the farmlands. That automatically will boost the economy and give opportunity to the young people that the government could not provide employment for at the local level. So you have them going into farming. That will not prevent those who are in the cattle business from having their business done. It simply means that you regulate their style of business to say that you have such a business operator would have to get a place to keep their goods and their businesses. So the issue of the growing of the economy basically has to do with the deliberate policies of the government, ensuring that every policy, every policy introduced reflects the protection of lives and property and enhance the economic well-being of the people.
Okay. So what sectors do you think should be most concentrated on, aside from the oil sector, at this point in time?
Now, you rightly mentioned the oil sector. I did even go a little bit deep into that area. Like I mentioned, Nigerian politicians and elected office holders in this country, over time, they came into governance and they met a system that appears to be like a running tap. And they all gathered the honey and begin to drain from the honey for their personal.
Are you talking about the crude oil here?
That is the crude oil.
Okay.
So there is no deliberate intention for them to have a policy direction about other sectors. They could be, I mentioned automobile sector, for instance. In many countries in Asia, in Europe, these guys are already in advanced in AI technologies, manufacturing, science behind productions, and the rest of them. We are just here consuming all the sciences, and they are bringing to us as a people. There must be a deliberate approach by, science-based leaders of this country to begin to identify what can we introduce into this country, in terms of real-time manufacturing, because all of these things has to do with raw materials and training young Nigerians, in these critical areas, sign reasonable memorandum of understanding and enter into bilateral contracts that would, ensure that we're able to get some of these industries being established in Nigeria. Not the promises that they keep making. And just recently, you see that the president traveled to the UK, and we are hearing again that they want to go and bring in, foreign investors. The other time, he has been to so many countries, and they will say they want to bring in foreign investors. And one will begin to ask, what exactly are these foreign investors coming to do? What critical aspect of the economy are they coming to touch in the life of Nigeria? And what are the benefits or the specific sectors that we have had these foreign investors coming into this country? Because up to now, there are no gadgets we are manufacturing in this country. There are no equipment, and probably building hotels and a few construction of road. And you see, and that is why you can see a governor of Edo State, Governor Monday Okpebolo, constructing a flyover, and is all over the whole state that a governor is constructing flyover, whereby in some major cities in this world, you will get through an underground train station that will take you from a particular city to another city. These are things that visionary leaders have created over the time. We have very lazy politicians governing this country, starting from the president down to almost all the governors.
Are you saying the president is lazy and he's not doing anything to improve the economy of this country?
The president...
Because I would want to understand why you said the president is lazy. Of course, he's been traveling around. He's been promising, investment. There was a time, he invited a German, some German engineers came to Nigeria, and they said they were going to invest in electricity. Of course, I don't know how that particular meeting went, but at the end of the day, publications came out that there was a deal between them. In fact, a deal that will last up until 2028. You understand? Aside that too, we've had some, delegates, international delegates who comes to see the president, and promises of investment are being made. Are you saying you don't see that as hard work from the president?
Well, you see, that is exactly what we are talking about. When I have the right, and I have the right to say that the president is lazy as a person, because where he's occupying today, he went in there by the reason of votes, Nigerian votes. That means he was sent to carry out a responsibility. I personally haven't sent the president out there to become the president of Nigeria at the time, and he's unable to discharge his functions, his duties, and his responsibility to my satisfaction. I can say that the president is lazy, and I will tell you why. This president keep promising Nigerians, even in the third year, going to the fourth year of his administration. From the time he became the president of this country, as he was announced, from that day up to this moment, he has been promising promises upon promises. The power sector in this country has gone below where it was as at the time he became the president. In one of his records, he said that don't vote for me if he's unable to deliver on power. So this president is lazy. He's unable to fulfill his own expectation as a man, and he wants to force himself to continue as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is no Nigerians who really mean so well for this country. No matter how temptatious it appears to be, Nigerians should not think that, they have conquered us. They have all the 34 governors. That is not a yardstick. That is not a measure to say that the second term is guaranteed for him. It is not a yardstick, and I can tell you that it is possible for this president to lose his election. Yes, it's very, very possible. Very, very possible. The indices are there. His achievement is nothing to write home about. Now they are sharing rice. We can rice solve our security problems in this country. The Bible says that you do not continue to feed a man or continue to get him fish. Teach him how to fish. Let this government, they still have the time. If he is able to prove Nigerians right, if this government can stop the movement of cattle in Nigeria and listen to the cry of the people, let him stop behaving like an emperor. Let him not think that whatever he says must come to pass. If a president of a country decided to inflict so much tax upon the people, giving avenue to traders to introduce illegal taxes, illegal VATs across all their goods and services, such a president is lazy. So the president must begin to look into this direction if he wants Nigerians to even remember him for good, even though he decided to lose in this election. But let him, make certain amendments in this administration and begin to work for the first time in the interest of Nigerians.
Oh, wow. For the first time. So, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, since you're saying the president and...
You're already calling Mr. President. You're projecting him being the president of the country already.
Yes, I see the prospects in him. So, since you're already saying that the president is being lazy, Nigeria is one of the greatest oil producing country, and we're already having issues of importing oil and all of this, and we already see that our refineries that are managed by the governments are not working. Would you rather say that there should be privatization in the oil business? Would privatization help the oil business stable? Because as we can see, the only stable working refinery is the private owned refinery in Nigeria.
No, I do not really believe so much in privatization per se. I believe that it is still possible, for government to run the business of governance. Okay. It's a matter of accountability. If the federal government of Nigeria wants the NNPC or whatever name they finally tune into, just to make Nigerians to forget about the sins and the crime they have committed in the past, it's immaterial. If the government want to make the NNPC, as it then was, and I will continue to refer them there, so if they want it to work, they should introduce measures of accountability on the employees of the NNPC and ensure that they do the right thing. Because the issue of sabotage and the issues of diversion of public funds exist more around these sectors. Okay. So I do not believe that certain critical aspect of our economy should be privatized. But however, like I mentioned, the government can, implement certain policies to, to uplift the standard of private sectors directly. I mentioned some of the sectors, even educational sectors. They can provide, certain access to funds for operators of secondary school and lifting the standard, lifting up the standard for those who, establishment of private nursery schools and secondary schools, to ensure that this aspect of the economy, for instance, are entirely of a high standard. They can make provisions for grants to these sectors. All we need to do as a people and as a government is to ensure that monies that is meant to direct solve the problems of Nigerians are actually used to solve those problems. But when you have a situation where you see a sitting governor who preside over billions and trillions of state resources, then he constructs a few roads, pays salaries for an entire 8 years or 4 years, no industry, nothing to write home about. All he does is politics, go to certain local government. We must stop that madness. That is not leadership. That is not how countries are run. There are certain areas you go in this world, you begin to imagine if these are normal people different from Nigeria. So this whole thing it must start from the leadership mentality. But over time, Nigerians are used to, allowing certain things to go on the way it should be. But Nigerians who should be boiling in hunger this time around are Nigerians who are determined. And that is why we are recommending that Nigerians should be actively involved this time around. Let them have their PVCs. Let them come up to vote so that they can, look around among the aspirants. Let them send a message. It is not possible that they will kill everybody on the day of election. But if your polling unit is far away from your house, they may stop you from moving. But if it's close by, you can vote, stay around there, protect your votes, and the votes are counted. Then
so you're asking
this administration can go
to stay back after making their votes.
Yeah,
make sure that it counts.
They can stay back, and they can stay back. Not necessarily everybody, but a larger number of people who would feel, since they are living within the environment, they can stay back and ensure that they count their votes.
Okay.
Because the hoodlums are not normally so much. But when you have a large number of people, when issues happen, it will be easier to investigate and get the culprits arrested.
All
but
right.
when there are few persons, they can do whatever they want to do and get away with it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, quickly, we just need to go on a short break right now. Of course, I still have a question to ask you, on voting. You mentioned voter revolution the other time. So I would want to relate it to what you just said right now. But I will do that immediately after we come back from the short break. Okay. Don't touch that dial.
Nelson Mandela once said, true leadership is not about power, but about service. We believe Nigeria can do better, and we believe Nigeria must do better. We are building more than a party. We are building a disciplined ideological movement. Our mission is equally bold: to transform Nigeria by raising principled and people-focused leaders, where leadership means service, where integrity is non-negotiable, and where the future of our children comes first. Hello, my name is Barrister Samuel Memeh, the National Chairman of the Democratic Leadership Alliance, DLA. The Democratic Leadership Alliance is not just another political party. The DLA stands as Nigeria's first ideologically driven political movement, firmly rooted in Pan-African philosophy and committed to truth, justice, innovation, and the welfare of the people. At a time when our nation faces deep economic hardship, social fragmentation, insecurity, and institutional decline, DLA emerges as a movement of hope, discipline, and purposeful action. We believe Nigeria can do better, and we believe Nigeria must do better. Our vision is clear: to build a socially developed, economically just, technologically advanced, and ethically governed Nigeria. A nation united in its diversity, and respected across Africa and the world. Our mission is equally bold: to transform Nigeria by raising principled and people-focused leaders, by reforming institutions to serve justice and equity, and by driving inclusive development rooted in Pan-African values, science, innovation, and accountability. We are building more than a party. We are building a disciplined ideological movement, a platform where leadership means service, where integrity is non-negotiable, and where the future of our children comes first. Today, I invite you to be part of this historic movement. Visit www.dlanigeria.org. Complete your registration. Join the Democratic Leadership Alliance. This is more than politics. This is a national awakening, a call to responsible citizenship, a struggle for renewal. Together, we can build a Nigeria that truly works for all. As Nelson Mandela once said, true leadership is not about power, but about service. Let us rise to serve. God bless the Democratic Leadership Alliance. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right, welcome back. And of course, don't forget, it's still DLA Hour. We're still with the national chairman of the Democratic Leadership Alliance, Barrister Samuel Memeh. I said I wanted to ask you a question on, you talked about protecting your vote. You talked about voter revolution. Now, I want to ask you, if people still go to, protect their vote, if you were to go by the idea of you protecting vote, you said people should stand there and watch them count. But let's not also forget the results are going to be passed through beavers. It's still going to be passed through beavers. So are you saying it's not going to be easily manipulated if people still stay there to want to protect votes? Because people are not going to see where the results are going through in the beavers. Of course, this is technology coming by the Electoral Act as amended. So do you think it's possible that it cannot be manipulated if people are there to protect their vote, coming by what you said?
Okay, based on the Electoral Act of amended 2026 and the procedure set for the conduct of elections, the participation of the political parties, the participation of the electoral umpire, the participation of the voters, the participation of the security agencies and all the critical stakeholders. The best advice one can give is that voters should turn out en masse to vote, most importantly, and most importantly, as a matter of the situation we find ourselves in this country, that it is almost going to be a disservice on the part of any Nigerian to this nation who fail to turn out to vote in 2027. Any person who did not come out to vote in 2027 do not mean well for this country. Because this country is in dire need of everyone. This country is in dire need of the contribution of every Nigerian. And the least anyone can do is to vote come 2027. And why it is necessary and very important for us, to protect our vote is because your vote is your mandate. So you can't just drop your vote, your mandate, and you just go home. Except there is a need for you to go home, probably for reason of health or age or other circumstances that will, prevent you from, staying back.
But if you stay back, how can you be sure that the result will still not be rigged, even despite staying back?
Now, the first and foremost, we must be optimistic. We must have some level of trust and assurance of our system. Then we must do our own part, most importantly. The responsibility is on us as a people, as voters, that we have a responsibility to protect our own duty. And then we have to organize ourselves to ensure that the other side, we place a higher burden of responsibility on them to protect and carry out their function. And that is why I said that people need to be at the polling unit. Not everyone would be there or remain there, but a reasonable number of percentage of people who turn out to vote should stay back somehow, find a way to comfort themselves, assist the electoral officials, and ensure that in the long run, at the end of the exercise, what happened at the polling unit is being transmitted. So that is the mindset for now. If there is any other thing that comes out during that time, then you have the people there, then they can deal with the issues. So protecting your vote, protecting your polling unit, it should be a responsibility of every voter and every Nigerian.
Okay.
I want to speak on the issue of taxation. I feel more like, the implementation of tax is increasing in the numbers daily. There is tax for so many things. Don't you think this taxing is part of what is causing this economic instability in the country?
It's exactly what it is. What it is, it's exactly what it is. Don't forget that just like Daniel Bwala, said in those days before the 2027 election, before the 2023 election, Daniel Bwala rightly said then that President Tinubu, then he was referring him as a former Lagos State governor, was a governor in Lagos State, and what he did was to collect tax from the people of Lagos, gather that used to amass wealth for himself, and he was purely a tax master, without necessarily adequate measure to commensurate what the then former governor of Lagos State, did with these resources in Lagos State. Today, Lagos State is what it is today because it was the Federal Capital Territory, and it is a gateway to Nigerian seaports, in this country.
And not because of the Tinubu Assad.
No,
some people are there related the success of Lagos State to the advent of Tinubu as the governor back in the day.
Of course, that is fallacy. We are living in the same country. So what people say doesn't really matter. It's about the fact. It is the fact that the former governor then, did nothing much, to uplift the standard of people in Lagos State. So what the pattern that they normally adopt, which they are now adopting at the federal level, is that they have, you have different laws in the country. You have the law that tends to protect the citizens, that tends to promote the well-being of the citizens. Then you have the other law that tends to place a burden and responsibility of the citizens, which has to do with payment of tax. Now, you have a system that tends to implement the one that places a higher burden on the citizens, and making sure that they suck whatever the law says that they must get from them. Then the one that has to do with the protection of the citizens, the government neglects that. So you see that it is not balanced. So for that reason, you can refer such an administration a tax master, a wicked tax master who's bent on ensuring that he enslaves the people to the barest minimum. And that is what the president is. And that is why you see that the level of taxes that is introduced in this country from different VAT, and nowadays it's quite unfortunate that even shops owners, because when you see people who are not sincere in the administration of a country, you find more people, that will take advantage of the lacuna to also extort more Nigerians. So what this government has done in inflicting different taxes, where people normally go and get food in those days, before now, that they do not ask them for tax, VAT. These places now, they have implemented VAT to the extent that even to cut your hair. No, now you buy an item, if you are a buyer of a goods and also seller, the manufacturer will pay VAT for his company, right? And he sell to a retailer. Retailer will add VAT. Then he sell to another person, and the government will take so many so the policies that has to do with protection of the people and ensuring that people feel a little bit more relaxed and enjoy their lives. This area, the government does not pay attention in those areas. So this is a very wicked administration. We are in fact the most dangerous administration we've ever had in this country. That is why you see that the condition of life in this country keep going down. They are not thinking of how to protect these people. They are not even thinking of these areas in places like Maiduguri, places like Borno, places like Bayelsa. different part of this country, Ondo, when you go down to where people are living, you see the standard of living of this country. And these guys collect taxes from everybody.
All right.
And without implementing policies to protect them. It is right at time for Nigerians to begin to reflect on this administration and end this administration once and for all.
All right. Quickly, let's go into the issue of minimum wage. The NLC, the Nigerian Labour Congress, recently came out to suggest a sum of 154,000 naira in a proposal for a new minimum wage, which perhaps they see might cushion the negative effect of fuel price increase and other policies, anti-people policies that are, causing hardship and suffering in the country. What would you have to say to that kind of proposal? 154,000 naira for new minimum wage.
I really wish that the request by the NLC would have been that the government force the government to change their policy direction to reduce suffering while maintaining the current minimum wage. And I will tell you the reason. If the government increases the minimum wage, the private sectors will also be meant and forced to increase their wages. And if they are in the business of running certain critical services, production and manufacturing, they would also increase
the prices of
goods and services. So you end up pursuing shadows without getting to a destination. All the government need to do is to sit back, take away certain aspect of greed from the administration, take away certain aspect of corruption from the administration, give what belongs to the people, and take what belongs to them, which is their salaries and their allowance. The government should not be involved in diverting public funds meant for critical projects in this country. And they should be plain, they should be truthful to the people. The idea of, seeing themselves as gods over the people and arresting and charging dissenting of voices because they are speaking against the hills and thereby neglecting the other critical guys who are in our forests, who are making life unbearable. They are on TikTok, they're on different platforms, and they don't have the courage, to mobilize more of their troops and create an enabling environment for the troops to fight these wars and win these wars. So it's quite a very dicey situation, very multiple ways to reference all of this issue. But of course, we must move forward as a people.
All right. Because of time, Esther, we don't have much of that by our side anymore. But thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. But before you go, what are your conclusive statements, please?
Well, my conclusive statement is that the economy of this country, if this country goes beyond what it is right now in terms of the economy, in terms of cost of living, in terms of security and insecurity, if we go below this standard, we are heading for a doom. And we must do everything not to go below this standard. And I'm urging the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to look into the critical aspect of this country that is affecting us as a people, most especially the issues of insecurity, and most importantly at the heart of my heart is the issue of allowing farmers to have access to their farms, thereby restricting the movement of cattle in this country entirely. Let those who want to move their cattle from one point to another, let them find alternative means to move their cattle. They should leave the farmlands alone so that Nigerians at the various communities can go back to farms. This automatically will make him have a more peaceful administration. If he can do that between now and his administration, I think he would have solved a very good mileage for his country.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Samuel Memeh, the national chairman of the DLA. I see you have, a lot of emotions to spill out there, especially for good governance to happen, in the country, especially for the revival of the economy here in Nigeria.
Very important. Very important.
Thank you for your insights, as usual. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of DLA Hour. Don't forget to follow, like, share, drop your comment, and of course, subscribe to DLA Nigeria on all social media platforms. Once again, Esther, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Omotola Adeleke. Bye for now and join us in the next episode.